Okay, it says we are live. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. Welcome to my regular Wednesday night live stream. Today I have Noah Revoy, who frequents my friend James Fox Higgins, the Rational Rise channel. Hello, Noah Revoy. Thank you for coming on to my channel for a change.
Thanks, Dia. It was really nice to have the invitation.
Oh, happy to have you. I am broken, and I think many women and men are, and we need people like you to sort of step in and tell us what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. And yeah, so it's good to not have a political discussion for once and sort of just discuss things that people really fail at. And I believe that, and you can maybe vouch for this statement, many people today don't do particularly well in the field of finding an end game partner. Like, it's, for me, it's about end game, but it doesn't seem to exist anymore, especially in my age bracket.
It's really, if you think about it, it's someone to have children with. That's really what is the end game. You know, the entire reason that our species and every other species exists is because people pair up, have kids, and it's very difficult. You know, I'm the very end of the Gen Xers, so I'm kind of in between two generations, but the Gen Xers had that problem as well. Many of them never got married, and it's even worse, I think, in the generation that came afterwards, which is you're probably at the end of that generation almost. And so it's an issue of the parents not doing their job. Historically, it was your parents' responsibility that you get married, not yours. You did the best you could do as a person, and your parents would help facilitate that. Now, it doesn't mean they told you who to get married to, but they would help you encounter people. They would create the social situations necessary. And, you know, back when everyone belonged to the same church, you'd see everyone in your community, everyone in your village, at least once a week. And so you knew who the good potential mates were by the time you were, you know, 12, 13 years old, and your parents would help you filter that out. And men would have the same thing. Men had, you know, pretty much a guaranteed job. There was a shortage of all kinds of skilled labor. You could go apprentice somewhere. By the time you were 25, you could support a family. And so, you know, men getting married in their mid-20s, women in their mid-teens, pretty much everyone got married. And the only people that didn't were people that had some serious malfunction, dysfunction. You know, they were disabled or blind or something like this. But all of the rest of us, well, or people that ended up, you know, turning into drunkards or whatnot. But normally communities, they really, they were much closer together, and people had a very deep support network. You know, now we have a massive social welfare government, and all it does is throw money at people, which most of the time is actually worse than if the person was poor enough they had to ask for help, because the help would come with conditions, and that would mean that they ended up improving by following those conditions. You know, back when the churches or private organizations were the main source of help, if you came to get help, they would say, okay, but you got to stop drinking, and you've got to stop doing this and that and the other thing, and here, come and work on this farm, and that's, you know, you're going to get food and board, and that's how you're going to do it until you recuperate. And we all found places. We either found a place for everybody, or the people that we couldn't find a place for, we tended to hang them. In Europe, we hung about 1% of the population every generation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and what it means is we hung the completely incorrigible violent criminals, basically, the rapists, the murderers, the repeat. Yeah, and we did this for more than 1,000 years, and we ended up actually changing the genetics of Europeans to be more law-abiding, to have a greater ability to get along with a large group. You know, instead of having ties just to the people you physically know, we were able to create the idea of nations where you have ties to everyone in your nation, even if you don't actually know these people. And this is really quite a European thing, to take the tribal and expand it out to the nation.
So, because of the progressing societies and the change in culture and how things have changed, so you're saying that usually it is the parents' function at some capacity to create opportunities and get-togethers or whatever it is for people to meet, and you think that a 12-year-old can read that situation enough to know that who their future husband should be?
If young people are properly educated about, so don't forget, used to 12-year-old today is not the same as a 12-year-old, 300 years ago. Now, I'm not saying you should get married at 12. Even 300 years ago would have been a bad idea. There's a lack of physical maturity. But if you were raised in a, in a church community where you were taught the difference between right and wrong, where your parents protected you, and where you had a, you had a judgmental society in a good way. Wrong was wrong, was right. And what ended up happening is it was easier for you to perceive right and wrong. Now we live in a society where the edges are blurred. It's everything kind of fuzzy. You can't make any judgments. If you make a judgment of someone, somehow they judge you as being bad for making judgments, which is in itself a judgment. And it's
so good. That's what we live in.
Yeah, we live in clown world. Is there any reason why a 12-year-old boy or girl can't understand that marrying a drunkard is a problem, or that that promiscuity is going to have negative effects? Like, if you explain to them, they're perfectly intelligent enough to understand that. And you want young people to understand these things before they hit puberty, so they don't have 10 years of, mistakes before they get wise and start to straighten their lives out. And I think most of the roots of the current problems in dating come from parents not passing that wisdom on. And it really started with the boomers, because the boomers, the universe and all history and time on both directions centers around the boomers in their mind. They are the sun of their own universes. And because of that, they don't feel the need to pass anything on, because of course they know much better than their ancestors. So they don't need to pass on any of that wisdom. And, they're so amazing that they don't need to pass it on to their kids either, because the kids will just somehow pick it up. Now, the other thing is that a lot of boomers realize that if they keep their kids single, they'll have them around as slaves and companions forever, especially since a lot of them don't have healthy marriages. Keeps them around as somebody to, that they're not alone in their old age. And I think it's going to really backfire on them. And you see a lot of boomers end up dying old and alone in old age homes while their kids sit bitterly alone in their homes. It's an unfortunate outcome for a generation that's been very selfish.
Yeah, I agree. So without coming across as biased, and I don't include myself in this because I think I'm an unfortunate exception to the rule, would you say that people who are religious, or like Christian, Mormon, even Muslim, are better at finding a partner because it's sort of, and it's in itself, religion in a way is sort of already a tradition and a culture, even though it's not? You know what I mean?
Well, Dr. Edward Dutton explains what he believes, or what he thinks from the studies that he's done, is the root cause of this. What he says is that there is always some irrationality in religion, and that's not a knock against religion. He actually says that's a feature, not a flaw, because what it says is that no matter how rational I am, I will subject myself to a little bit of irrationality in order to prove that I have loyalty to the group. And that proof of loyalty to the group also means that I am less likely to cheat on my partner. I am less likely to develop habits that the group that looks down upon, substance abuse problems, laziness, all this kind of stuff. I'm less likely to develop that because I'm willing to subject myself to the will of the group. And, we in the West, we've got this radical individualism that each one of us is a world unto ourselves. And we inherited that from boomers who actually got it from previous French Enlightenment thinking and just amplified it a million times higher. But the reality is that we are part of a group. And if we can understand, we have to pick the group we subject ourselves to. But if we subject ourselves to certain ideas into a group, we're going to be much more successful at finding a partner. And more importantly than that, we're going to be successful in our marriage or in our relationships.
That makes sense. The thing is, though, the person who chooses to date outside of their faith, like I've done, and like many do, that individual is sort of setting themselves up for disaster, would you say?
Yeah. Because you see, they come into it with a high level of, they're approaching it with this high trust, okay? And because they're approaching it with a high trust, they're not as careful to look for signs of untrustworthiness in the other person. If you both come from societies that will completely ostracize you for bad behavior, you can pretty much trust that most of the other people in that society will behave well, and therefore your future spouse will if you pick them from there. The real difficulty right now is women outnumber men in the church about 2 to 1. So it's really hard. And there are a lot of, and not all Christianity is equal. You know, I don't know enough about, I don't have enough experience. I don't have enough positive experience with Muslims to make a lot of judgments about what's going to work there.
Sure.
I have lots of experience with them. None of it's been positive so far, except for some of my Muslim followers on Twitter who've actually been quite reasonable. But with Christians, there is very effeminate Christians, and I'm talking with Christian men, and
that's very true.
Yeah, there are very weak, effeminate churches. And I mean, it's not hard as a man to figure out which is which. If you go there as a masculine man and you don't feel comfortable, you're pretty much, you know, right away it's a problem. If you go there and they have modern music, or they have a female minister, or they're, you know, they got a pride flag on the front. Yeah, there's signs that you can tell that that is not a church for a man to go to. And women who go to those churches, they're at even a worse position in a way, because they're only exposed to these effeminate men, and it will warp their ideas of what men are like, and they'll often end up not particularly attracted to men, and they might even settle for one of these low quality men, but they won't be happy. You know, that kind of robust, militant, in-group preferenced Christianity that pushed the Islamic invasions out of Europe is very hard to find today. It pretty much doesn't exist.
Yeah, like if I could like pick like exactly what I want, I would like an alpha male, cool Christian, strong in his faith, invested emotionally and all of that. I think that's what a lot of women want. Yes, finances and stability are important, but if you don't have someone who is sorry, this is funny. I'd choose 100% choose Mormonism over any other sect. That's not really a Christian.
They're you know,
they have the marriage thing down. Right about
theological differences. Outside of theological differences, Mormonism has still remained family centric.
Yes,
and patriarchal, and that's important. You can't have a masculine church that's not patriarchal. That's one of the best tests, is to go in there and talk about, you know, patriarchy in the church, and if they are uncomfortable, you run the other way.
I agree.
So if they're more extreme than you, that's where you want to go. You know, you want to find the church that's farther in the direction that you want to go than you are, because otherwise they're either farther than you, or they're closer to centrists, or really on the left. And the thing is, you're going to get pulled in the direction of your group, whether it's a church, a club. You know, even if you're not a Christian and you're going to some secular organization, if they're farther to the center or to the left than you are, they'll pull you that way. And it doesn't matter how strong you are, you're around people long enough, they start to pull you in their direction. So you want people that pull you in a direction you're happy with.
Sorry, my eyes are bugging me at the moment. I think I agree with that. So do you believe, what is it that women require more? Do you think it's emotional investment, or do you think it's financial stability, or do you think it's just attention?
What women, well, it depends. I wrote a post a little while ago. You know, I absolutely know what men are looking for in women.
Well, I would assume you would, yes.
And with women, I know what the kind of women that I coach are looking for. But women in general, it's hard to say. So women are either looking for contradictory things. They want fun, excitement, risk, stability, security, safety.
Yeah.
It's not money. They want security. Sure. A wealthy man who's bad with his money will not attract women who want to have a relationship with him. They'll attract women who want his money. They want his resources. Then once they're gone, once the resources are gone, the man is gone. You know, a man who won the lottery will be surrounded by beautiful women for about 6 months, and then all the money will be gone, and then he'll never see them again. This is quite common. Women they want a good-looking man because that means good-looking kids. The same reason a man wants a good-looking woman. It's not just about her. It's about having healthy, good-looking kids, because we all know that good-looking people are more successful in society than unattractive people. And so you want your kids to have the best shot possible. Marry a beautiful woman. Look at all the rock stars marrying models, and then they have beautiful kids. You know, they're usually ugly, and they're looking for this genetic upgrade. But
so I'm not shallow if I want a hot guy.
No. And see, there is a thing too, is we talk about preferences. What are your preferences? So most men would prefer to marry a woman who is gorgeous. However, most men don't qualify to marry a woman who's like a 9. You know, most men are the bell curve, most men are a 5. They're going to end up with a woman who's a 5.
Okay.
That's just the way it is, because there's not enough. Most women cluster closer to the mean than men do. You know, men are more spread out. There's a lot more really undesirable men and a lot more really desirable men than there is women on those ends. But the really desirable men, they can pull women from the entire spectrum if they want. And that's kind of a, you know, you get drunk on that kind of power. And when they can do that, when a man can pull women from all across the spectrum, when it's easy for him to attract women, it can be like having too much power, and they can get a little power drunk on it.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
I'm aware.
And it'll lead to some bad behavior. They can end up, they end up finding themselves 40 years old, and now they are starting to decline in appearance, and they haven't built up the economic part. They haven't built up the reputation as a solid man, as a reliable man. And then they find themselves not able to attract women with looks anymore, and not able to hold women, because they can attract women, but hold them is different. Not able to hold women with their stability. And it's kind of like when women hit the wall, and they end up finding themselves as old and alone. It's not happy. Yeah, it's not happy. It's very sad for them. And used to be in society, we had these enforced norms. So these men, they would pick the best possible woman they could get, and they'd kind of have to stick with her, and I think it was better for them in the long run.
Well, now men leave like partway through a relationship and don't like actually, it's not a mutual, exit. It becomes, it's like, how can you be unsure after such a short period of time? Like, what would you say to that?
Well, this is one of the, it's romantic delusions on both the man and the woman's part that is the biggest problem. And the delusions should have been trained out of them by their parents. So the parents are responsible. But what ends up happening is you get romantic delusions from, media that you consume, from books and television and whatnot. And that's really promoted big time, as these delusions. And the delusions are that almost all attention is positive attention. And
of course, yeah.
Women crave attention like food. The equivalent of men don't crave women's attention nearly as much as women craves men's attention. What men want,
emotional.
Yeah, women crave attention. Men crave men crave what's the word? Men want to hear you did a good job. Women want to hear you're beautiful. So yeah, now men, we want the alpha in our group. We want the guy who we look up to go, hey, you did an awesome job. Great job, man. And that is, for us, that's like, we get this endorphin boost. We feel awesome. We're on top of the world. For women, they want to hear you're beautiful. That's their validation. You're beautiful. You're attractive. You're lovely. I like you. I want to spend time with you. That's what helps them. And men, they want to hear that they did a good at their job, or their mission in life, or whatever it happens to be. That is our way we get validation. And a lot of women, they mistake there are two types of reasons why men are interested in women. One is to consume them, and one is to invest in them. Now, the initial attention will look very much the same. And the two things are mutually exclusive. You can't want to consume a woman and invest in her. You can't consume a company, spend all of its resources and also invest in it to build it up. And if you think about it, the consumption is, having women just for short-term flings, non-committal sex, even porn is consuming women. Violence. You're beautiful, Nathaniel. Very beautiful. Um, uh,
Keep going.
porn is consuming women, rape, slavery. I mean, that's not really so common nowadays, but this kind of stuff was consuming women. And investing in a woman is taking the woman and being willing to spend the time to get to know her and to create a life with her. And we usually we do that for children. Not everyone, of course, is going to have kids, but most people, most men invest in a woman so that they can have children with her. Now, the initial attention that men spend on women is going to appear very similar for both of them. And there are tests, women do shit tests for a good reason. There is an absolute good reason for them. They're healthy. As long as they're done respectfully, they're very healthy. And she needs to know how to test the man to know whether he's interested in consuming her or he's interested in investing in her. And if the man knows what he's doing, he can show which he's doing, but without a test. But most men don't understand that. And this comes from the fact that men and women pretty much don't know how to communicate with each other. They don't know how to speak to each other.
I agree.
Most men don't know how to talk like a man to another man. They don't know how to talk like most men talk like high school girls. They gossip and they rally, and it's social media is the problem. All this social media nonsense is gotten people to talk in such a way as if there's no consequences. Men in a group, we talk in a certain way because we understand that if we mouth off to the wrong guy, we're going to get punched in the face. And the threat of violence civilizes men. The potential for violence civilizes us because we understand that if we don't behave civilly, there will be actual consequences. There's no consequences online, and men get in these terrible habits. Occasionally, they bring that into the real world, and then they do get punched in the face. But usually, most people don't have anything but online interactions anymore, so they're always online.
Yeah, it's pretty pathetic, actually. I'm in so many groups on Telegram, and I'm like, what am I doing? I need to get out there. I feel pathetic. Like, it's not real. It's like what we think we're going to change the movement, or the movement being the right wing side. We're not doing shit all. We're just talking. Like, yeah. Sorry, keep going.
If you want to change the movement, get more skin in the game. Start a relationship, start having kids, and get skin in the game.
I agree.
I tell people.
I thought I'd been working on that, and then it just doesn't work out for me because I'm unlovable now.
Well, and I think in your case, it's because you were never educated on how to speak to men.
Probably.
And speaking, I mean, also to understand what they're saying as well. And for example, if you're a man and you're speaking to another man, we are blunt. We're blunt to the point of being, almost vicious with each other, because we understand that we need to harden each other. You don't get calluses from holding soft objects. You get calluses from rough things, from holding a barbell or rocks or something like this. Building things. And as men, we are rough with each other like that because we know it strengthens each other and we enjoy it. And we're always sorting for hierarchy. We're constantly sorting for hierarchy, testing a little bit the bounds of the hierarchy above and below us. And that's perfectly healthy, but you can't treat women that way. You can't talk to women like they're part of the male hierarchy.
I don't think I'm needy until it gets to the stage where I start feeling ignored. Then I get a bit funny.
And Rocky, I have to say, you're not beautiful. Yes. And what happens is men end up talking to women like they're other men. So either too rough and blunt, or they only talk to them about logic and rationality. And women find that very boring. If you're a man and you have dates repeatedly, first dates, and you never have second or third dates, or at the third date they're never seeing you again. Sometimes women will give you a second chance, but unlikely to give you a third or fourth chance. You're probably talking to them like they're a dude with breasts, and you need to stop doing that. Talk to them like they're women. Women love emotions. They're emotional junkies. Men are logic junkies. So we want to talk about, politics and rationality and philosophy.
Well, I'm a woman who likes politics and likes logic, but I also want to be, I suppose, nurtured in that way when we're not in that discussion.
Well, you see, it's true. You like those things, but I know you a little bit. You like to, and like most women that like the logical things, they also want you to address the logic partially to their heart as well. If you could learn how to speak to women's hearts, you will have almost a magical power over women. And of course, you have to be careful not to abuse that. But if you speak to their heart, you can get a lot done. The same way, if women understand how to speak to a man's logic, they can convince him of things. I remember years ago, before I had kids, talking with a bunch of women about the idea of peaceful parenting. And they're all emotional appeals, and they're hyper emotional about everything. And I'm like, I'm not going to listen to anything they say, because it's just emotional gobbledygook. This is not going to convince me of anything. And one of the women realized that. I wasn't saying that to them. I was just kind of like listening to their craziness. And they were right, but the way they're approaching it had no effect on me. And one of the women said, go look at Stefan Molyneux's video about peaceful parenting, and that'll help you. I went and looked there, and it was all logic and rationality. The video was for men, basically. And I looked at that and I said, oh yeah, I'm not going to hit my kids then. That was enough. That was done. There was no more need to convince me.
Well, I'm a Christian, so I would totally hit my kids if I had them. But this is a different discussion. Yeah. Yeah.
So what happens is that if you appeal to people using the right type of language, it makes it a lot easier for them to listen to you and to understand. And
you're saying that men and women have a different love language, where I want to be maybe paid attention to a little bit more, and not like neglected for other things within reason. Men want you to understand that they have to work, they have to do this, they have to do that. Correct? Is that sort of?
I'll give you an example. So women tend to talk to men like they're children, because women instinctively know how to talk to children.
Which is demeaning.
Yes, they will talk to men like they're children, which is very demeaning, and they will kind of treat men like children. Now, if you do that to me, I have a strong ego, and I understand that you're not doing it out of a bad place, and so I can help correct it, right? But when a woman does that to a man with a weak ego, a man who's very fragile, he will take it as a personal insult. He thinks that she's trying to demean and undermine him. So instead of helping her, this is why I say, if you're there to consume, you're not going to put up with any of that. You're immediately going to leave when she treats you like that. If you're there to invest, you're going to put a little effort into encouraging her how to speak in a way that is respectful. And most women are doing this because they don't know any better. They're not trying to be evil. They just don't know.
So hypothetically, if I or any woman does that, accidentally demeans a man publicly in front of his friends, what would the right response be? Would it be to dump her and be like, see, I showed her I'm manly, or would it?
The right response is to slap her on the butt in front of your friends and to say, hey, what are you talking about, lady? Like get real there, and you got to show that you're a rock, and what she said just bounced off you, and you say, you say something to the slap on the butt is to kind of take dominance over the situation, and you have to. I mean, you got to see how far the relationship is along. If you just met her, it's probably too forward, but you have to show that you're such a man that doesn't bother you, and then you got to, in private, shut that down with her. You got to explain to her what she did and why that's not acceptable, and that you don't want a repeat of it. And that
I actually find it unattractive when a woman does what's not even the word demean like that. It is demeaning, but it's demasculating or emasculating, whatever the word.
Yeah.
I would never want to do that, and if and I have a feeling that maybe I've done it before without realizing that that's what I did, and it probably wasn't explained to me properly, because I think like I've spoken to you in the past. I think I have something. Social retardation is what I say, but I say it publicly. I tell everyone I'm socially retarded. So sometimes I feel like I need, if it's not told to me in a brutal manner, I won't get it. And that's just how I operate personally. I won't get it unless it's explained to me really, really like, okay, I know you're not, because obviously I'm relatively innocent as well. So it's like, if that person can't understand me and my intentions, then was it ever going to last anyway? Do you know what I mean?
I want you to reframe that. I don't want you to say anymore you're socially retarded. By demeaning yourself that way. No, but by demeaning yourself that way, you're programming yourself to behave in that way. Okay.
Oh, maybe.
What you should say is that you are inexperienced. You are socially inexperienced with romantic things. You
This is
lack, you're or naive is the actual term. You're naive
naive.
about
Yeah, I heard
romantic
that.
things.
I've heard
Okay.
that word has been associated with me my whole life.
Yeah, and that can be overcome. Retardation can't be overcome. That's inherent to the.
Yeah.
It's also insulting, and if you insult yourself, it demeans you. It makes other people think less of you, and you're quite a fantastic young lady. You shouldn't be demeaning yourself. But it's important that we avoid self-deprecation, because
Oh,
when we
okay.
lower ourselves in our own mind, then we
Mm.
tend to behave like that. So
Okay.
if a person, you'll see people that talk positively about bad habits tend to never get over those bad habits.
Oh, I know. I can admit when I'm wrong, and I like to move on. I know
Yeah.
a lot of people who don't do that though, and it's off-putting as hell.
Yeah, you can admit when you're wrong, and the challenge that you and many people have had is that you're all learning things by experience only. There's a man that I follow on Twitter who mentioned that reading books is a complete waste of time. Go out and learn how the world works by living it. The problem with that is and there is something to be said for that, but the problem is that you end up repeating the same basic mistakes that other people already overcame. And
Yeah.
the reason that we have books is especially books on advice, is so that we can go farther than our ancestors. We don't need to make the same mistakes they made. We can jump ahead. The wisdom of the past is transmitted mostly through books, especially nowadays.
Mhm.
We don't get a lot of this from our parents. We have to figure this out as we go. I figured out a lot of stuff simply by thinking. Some things came to me. They were just obvious. But when I found out that my wife was pregnant, I thought, at some point I'm going to have to help my kid. I didn't know it was a boy or a girl yet. I'm going to have to help my kid find a mate. And I better become, I already was the guy that people went to when they wanted help dating, amongst all my friend groups. But I said, I got to become a real expert at this, because
Yeah.
who my child marries is going to have a lot to do with how happy they are in the future. You're putting yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, well, everybody judges everybody else. It's a woman's job to judge whether a man's going to be a good father for her children or not. It's a man's job to judge the same about the woman. Will she be a good mother? We all judge everybody all the time. That's why looks are important. If you are, what do you immediately assume when you see a cuck-faced guy? You immediately assume a certain political leaning. You assume certain beliefs. You assume he's probably for equalitarian because he's at the bottom of the pyramid. So of course he's going to think that he's equal to everyone. There are things you can assume and be almost right 100% of the. You'd be right almost 100% of the time. Because the looks transmit a lot about a person. The posture transmits a lot. How much muscle do they have? That means they've invested in themselves. They care somewhat about themselves.
I've dated muscle, and it ain't all like it cracked up to me. I tell you.
Yeah, but imagine the same individual with less muscles.
I can't. It would be weird.
But the same individual with less muscles would be even in bigger problems than he's in now. Because
yeah, maybe.
Even less developed. You see, all men generally are, we're reaching up trying to become the best we can. And I think the most important thing for men to do, if they want to become better men, is get in the gym and start exercising. But it's not enough. You need to take the confidence that gives you and then channel it in a healthy direction.
Yeah.
Part of the problem is that we lack leaders. It used to be, when we talk about alphas at the top of the pyramid is fractal. So your pyramid is under another pyramid. And it used to be, that men of all ages, until you were really old, you always had some other older man to answer to. And what that meant was you had a mentor. You had someone to help you direct your youthful energy in a positive way. So if you were a young man and you were full of energy, you didn't tend to get in so much trouble because there was other older men around to say, hey, look, I almost did the same thing as you did when I was younger and it screwed up, and look what happened to you see that gravestone? That's your cousin Joe. And you know what he did? He did the same thing you're thinking of doing. And look, this is what happened to him. We had that advice, and now we're all atomized. So if you're at the top of this tiny little hierarchy of broken men, there's nobody there to give you advice. And none of the guys below you, they're all going to respect the hierarchy. So none of them are going to tell you you're wrong.
So this, yeah, go.
Go ahead. I like working with other men who are what's called a sigma. So they're kind of outside the hierarchy, more lone wolf type guys, because I'm responsible for a lot of people, and that puts me at the top of a hierarchy. Okay. When I have a sigma there, he will tell me when I'm wrong, and he won't hesitate because he's not in the hierarchy. He doesn't depend on me for anything. So he has no problem telling me when I'm wrong and criticizing me. And I need that. And I think every man that is responsible for something, he needs a bunch of men around him, at least one, but 2 or 3 men who will tell him, no, you're wrong. Even if those guys are wrong in what they're saying, they will challenge you to force you to think about your actions and to improve them. It's a very big responsibility to be in some sort of a leadership. And if we are not handling that properly, we hurt a lot of people. And we need to have someone, who watches the watchers. We need someone to watch us if we're going to lead. Someone to help us.
Shouldn't, this is probably a bad thing to say, but shouldn't men not have to be watched? Wouldn't a real man just do the job, be responsible for what you have to do?
That there is some men that are like that. Okay, there are some men that this is usually what you would call the sigmas, who can operate without a network to give them pressure to go in the right direction. If you take most alphas and you separate them from the people that they lead, they're still perfectly happy. I don't want to lead a big group of people. I don't want to have a whole load of people responsible for me.
Neither would I.
I feel compelled to do it. And that's the difference. There are alphas who are out seeking power, that they really want power and control over people. Those are usually malevolent alphas. But the alphas who are benevolent usually don't want the power. They just end up getting it because people collect under them, and that ends up in the pyramid. Yeah. Then they end up responsible for people.
So what kind of a man can a woman find, and what kind of a woman can a man find who will understand the love language? It sounds to me like that's a very tricky equation to balance.
I think the most important on both sides, the most important characteristic on both sides is reasonableness. We have to be reasonable, and yes, don't date whores. Yes, absolutely. We have to be reasonable and humble enough to recognize that we probably don't know everything, and we are living in a world where people know almost nothing, and we're going to have to wade through a sea of broken people as a broken person in order to find someone that's compatible with us. Now, after we recognize that, we have to start putting ourselves back together the best that we can. You can be broken. There's no need to stay broken. You'll forever be damaged. If you get a cut, you have a scar. The scar is there forever, but you don't leave the wound open. You got to heal the wound. Once the wounds are healed, once the missing information that we need to pursue relationships is there, we have to recognize that we might find a person who's not as far along the pathway as we are, especially if you're a man. Very common that a man finds a woman who's like 10 steps behind him on the path and helps her catch up and helps her get up to his level. It is
that equation, in my case, or maybe in the case of many other women, sometimes it's the woman who's more prepared than the man for like a future.
With that, yes, for a future, absolutely. It depends too. You might be needing to date men that are a little bit older, that are ready to settle down. Unfortunately, a lot of men have decided to extend childhood until they're nearly 40, and this is this is kind of embarrassing problem, because you can't fix that. The man has to decide that he wants to end his easy life and settle down. And there are men that will never settle down. There's always been men that never wanted to settle down. Europe had about a third of men during the Middle Ages lived in the church, which meant that they were, hermits, or they lived at a monastery, and they basically spent all their time partying with their friends, and they made and drank a lot of beer and had a lot of feasts. And they were basically having fun all the time. And that meant that there was, there's a good chunk of men that didn't get married. We're still going to have that today. The key is to look for those men that are going to get married and to be very selective. And you have to create a kind of situation where inappropriate men get pushed away naturally and the right men get pulled into that vacuum. So yeah, so it's sometimes what'll happen is, so a lot of men are basically, children in adult bodies. And the reason is there's no societal pressure on them to grow up.
But they would probably assume that they have. They in their own mind, even I myself know that maybe there's so much I need to work on, but I know that, but maybe they think that they're perfect as they are. I don't know.
Well, they might be perfect as they are for the life they're leading. If they're leading a life of no responsibilities, then that they're perfect for that life. What they need to get is, if they got excited about leaving a legacy and about having children, then they'd realize they need to make other decisions. And the fact is, for women, it's not hard to get them excited about having kids. I mean, even feminists secretly wish they could. They just know that no one will marry them. And so yeah, exactly. They're usually ugly, and ugly up here, and ugly physically as well. And so nobody wants them. And because of that, they get bitter about it. But for a lot of men, it used to be the only way you got sex is you got married. Marriage and sex, that was the only way to get sex. And so men were thinking, I'm 18 years old. I better start thinking what I'm going to do, because the next couple of years I want to get married. No one's going to marry me if I don't have an organized life. And then most men were getting married in their mid-20s, and most women were getting married in their mid-teens, so about 6-7 years younger than the men. And this was pretty much how it filtered out. Nowadays, if you're a man, if you're reasonably good looking, it is really not hard to get laid. Like, it's so easy at this point that it's just a matter. Well, I mean, you can adjust your standards. You always get laid, but it's so easy at this point that it's not even worth bragging about. Unless you're having sex with supermodels, it's not worth bragging about. And so for men, they don't have much of an impetus to go get married anymore. They have everything that they wanted. And on top of that, we've made marriage less attractive. We made it really easy for women to get out of the marriage. And when they leave, they take all the assets and the children, and you probably have to pay the money for the rest of your life, or at least the rest of the children's life. And so this has made it very unattractive for men. Now, we do need to fix these incentives on a bigger scale. But the reality is there'll always be men, like I did. I said, I don't care what the law says. I'm not going to end up in divorce court. And if I do end up in divorce court, I will solve, if someone comes to take my kids and my money, I'm going to solve the problem like it needs to be solved, whether or not that's the legal way to do it. So it holds no fear for me. Your wife will not divorce you if you pick the right woman, first of all, and understand how to keep her. But it needs to be both of those things. You can't have just one. But it is a problem right now, because young men, and I'm saying up until almost I'm 41, almost to 41, there's men still living like children.
You look 35.
How do we get, which means you're looking for men that are close to around 40. Okay.
For me?
You said, how old did you say you were?
No, I'm 33. But
yeah.
You look really good for 41. I said you look 35. That's what I said. But I don't think you heard me.
And this is pretty good considering I haven't slept for 6 months, because I have 6-month-old babies. Twins.
So cute.
Last night they were crying because they were teething. But and that's the other thing for men, is that it used to be when you're a man, you got married, that meant you had someone to look after the house, to cook, to clean, to take care of your babies and all of this stuff. And nowadays, like my wife feeds the babies at night. Of course, I hear them cry, so I still wake up. So not the same level of sleep. And if they're both crying at once, I got to help her. It's twins. That was unusual. But for a lot of men, they get married and they find they get none of that. The wife doesn't know how to cook. She doesn't know how to clean. She has she has no interest in actually looking after kids, and she has no self-discipline. So for women that are looking for a man to have kids with, they need to be able to show that they're a good investment. They have the skills necessary to make that man's life better than it could ever be single. You know, a good woman will make your life way better than it was when you were single. You know, you have more sex, you have a stable life, you have someone there to allow you to follow your goals much better than you could if you're by yourself.
So every time a woman is left behind in a relationship, it's probably because she wasn't able to bring those things to the table.
Yeah, well, sometimes the woman has them and doesn't know how to communicate that.
Oh, okay. Or hasn't been presented the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and she doesn't know how to communicate it. And the other thing is that there might be a guy who's looking to consume her, who is looking for her. You know, she gives him social status. This is what I have had a bunch of men and women clients who are on the right, who are minor celebrities on the right. Okay. And they all had the same problem. It's difficult to know if the person that's interested in you is interested in you because of who you are as a figure, or if they're interested in you, the person, to have a life with you. And there are ways to figure that out and test it, but it was always difficult to know that. And so you have to go through that test. But very often, if you have some fame, someone with a little less fame will want to date you because that's one step up, and then they'll go up and up. And for men especially, we understand that the woman we're with, if she's attractive, you're attractive. If she's attractive, if she's nice, if she's intelligent, if she's popular, a little lower than the stomach, just slightly lower. But what happens is you have to see if they're dating you because it's good for them politically, or if they're dating you because they want to spend the rest of their life with you. Because that's what the relationship you're looking for. You're not looking for fun only. You're looking for a long-term relationship. And that is difficult to filter out.
Well, so I don't know. I forgot. I drew a blank there. But oftentimes you think you have it, and then you don't.
Well, and one of the things is that most young women today are dating in a vacuum. So they have no one. When you're dating someone, most young men and women have this problem. When you're dating someone, they have no one to take the person they're dating to show and say, hey, this is who I like, and the person can test them a bit. As much as I know about relationships, if my wife died or something and I was going to remarry, I would not date alone. I would absolutely have some friends to help me filter the women I was interested in, because I understand that I am a man, and if I like a woman, I'm going to make all the excuses in the world for why I should invest into her, even if it's just because she's hot. And so, and women will do the same. They will imagine a life with a guy that's way beyond where the relationship is. And if you don't have someone to help you filter that and help you stay with reality, it's really hard. And I do not blame the person that's dating. That's just a thing that happens. We tend to be like that. We need other people to bring us back to reality. People who aren't currently influenced by the same hormone rush that we're getting because we're in a relationship. And
so in my case, and the case of many girls who are Christians, you're not looking for someone who is sexual. You're looking for someone who will value you on an emotional level, on an intellectual level, who can validate you. And that can be maybe frustrating to the guy, right? It could be frustrating to the man who he has to validate all the time, or who won't have sex with him until a certain amount of time or whatever.
The clients that I've had that had the best success with really getting a good relationship either waited at least until engagement for sex, or are going to wait until marriage, or are waiting until marriage, or have waited until marriage. The reason is that it filters out especially for women, it filters out the men that are just there to consume you. And a lot of people will say, well, how do you check for sexual compatibility? It's like, one of you has a penis and one of you has a vagina. You're sexually compatible. Bingo. Yeah. It's not that hard. If a man is physically fit and a woman is physically fit and they can't figure out how to have amazing sex together, it's not sexual compatibility, it's relationship issues. If you have a great relationship with someone, it's going to be awesome.
But like, because I don't really understand what does it mean when someone says that person's really good at sex? It's probably a ridiculous question I'm asking, and I probably sound again really naive. Don't you just lay there and then get done?
that you might not want to have said in public, but okay, look, sex when done right.
Because I don't understand how you can be good at sex.
Sex when done right is a is a combination between an art and a gymnastic experience.
But you just said the compatibility is vagina, dick.
Yeah, that's basic sexual compatibility. You know, if you both when people say sexually compatible, what they mean is both want sex at the same amount, but
okay.
That's not realistic. Men will almost always, unless they're really unhealthy, you know, they have problems with testosterone or whatever, men will almost always want sex more than women, and it'll kind of flip around if you get into the 40s and 50s, and then it'll even out, or even sometimes she wants sex more. But generally, men will want sex more often than women, and there'll be a lot of times when women will have sex with their husband. The sex will start simply because he wants it. And she'll end up enjoying it anyway, you know, but it's good sex comes from a good relationship, and you figuring out what the other person wants and what you want, and both of you getting what you want. It's kind of like saying, what makes a person a good dancer? There's a lot of similarities between dancing and sex. What makes a person a good dancer? It's not just standing like this and moving your feet in a mechanical way, right? Okay. Dance is an emotional connection between two people. You look into their eyes, you move them around. As a man, you guide the woman. The woman is it gives to the man's guidance and moves around. And good dancing can have this amazing, thrilling impact on both of the people, and even you know, on the public watching, which nobody should be watching having sex, but it's thrilling to dance properly. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between that and like those high school dances where kids are stepping on each other's feet and they don't know what they're doing. Okay. You don't get good at dancing by dancing with all kinds of different people. Most dancers, they have a dance partner.
Paul does. Yeah.
They have a dance partner, and they learn to dance really well with that person. They maximize their ability to dance with that person. Sex with the same person every day for 10 years, you guys are going to get really good at it. Compared to someone, you know, most single people are not having sex every day. They're having sex, frankly, they're having sex every few months usually. Most people lie about how often they're having sex. Women say less, men say more. You know, if you're married and you're healthily married and you're both healthy, you're having sex close to every day. And I mean, you're in the same house together. It's real easy, you know, especially if you're
like my parents having sex at all, but
yeah. And well, it'll depend on the quality of the marriage, and it will depend on, you know, some guys are so bad at it that the woman completely loses interest some point along the relationship. Guys,
that's funny. These are foreign concepts to me.
Yeah. Well, you know, hopefully the guy that you end up with can educate you a bit on the details. But just laying there is not a way to make it exciting.
I'll make sure he's with me, and then you can interview him one day, like privately, obviously, and you can be like, "All right, dear, this one's okay."
Yeah, and that's absolutely what I do for people, men and women. I have another Australian client. Yeah, I have another Australian client. I had a couple of wonderful calls with him and his girlfriend. She is absolutely lovely, and I don't know if she she read my mind, because all the questions I asked, she gave the perfect answer to. And she was absolutely. She's 18 years old, but he's not very old either. He's in his early 20s. She's 18 years old, very mature. She exactly what she wants. I want kids. She wants 10 kids. I think they're joking between each other. I don't know. Maybe they do want 10 kids, but she knows what she wants. She's going out to get it. And she had a good set of instructions from her parents, you know, and he didn't. So that's why he needs my help to help him filter women. But yeah, it's I do that quite often for people, and a lot of, you know, I've had couples where I said, you know, you guys aren't compatible. or I said, one of you or both of you need to work on certain issues. If you can't figure out how to make that stuff work, you two can't have a relationship. You can have a relationship with other people, but between you, this isn't going to work. It's a lot cheaper
But you can tell
now while you're dating than to get married, have kids, and then find out you're incompatible. Yeah.
That's interesting that you can sort of see that relatively quickly.
Yeah. If you see enough couples, you get to figure that out, you know. You help a few hundred or maybe 1,000 couples by now. I don't keep track of the exact numbers. Over the last 20 years, I've been doing this for people. When I was a minister, I was doing this for people. And
you were a minister? A Christian minister?
Yes, years ago.
I know that. Okay.
Yeah, I used to be a minister years ago, and I would help people, and I gave more blunt advice. Other people would give generic. It's not that it was from the Bible that was the problem. It was that it was too generic. You'd ask a question, they just read you a scripture, and they wouldn't. And I was more like, yeah. Well, plus I actually was more realistic about the importance of attractiveness and economic stability and all of that stuff, instead of, as long as they're a believer, you know, because that's not enough. That's you know, that's one leg of a chair. If you're religious, you should marry someone that has religious compatibility to you.
I want that.
Yeah, that's one leg of a chair. That's one leg of a chair. It's not enough by itself. You know, one-legged chair is not stable. You need
to be able to like laugh together. You need to laugh at the same things. I think that's super important. I love to laugh.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, it's interesting what you said. You love to laugh. You love emotions. Women love emotions. And if you're a man and you want a woman to like you, you need to be able to give her that safe emotional roller coaster to keep her happy. She likes you to talk to her heart. She likes you to be interesting. Men or women, sorry, they often see this false dichotomy between there's the stable, boring guy, i.e. he has no emotions, and there's the exciting bad boy who's got loads of emotions and will make me feel things like a roller coaster. And like, I want the stability, but I also want to feel things. Neither of those men are properly developed men. They're both missing important parts of them. A fully developed man can give you the emotional roller coaster because he understands you need it, and also be stable when you need it. And they're not a contradiction in terms.
That's the lack. That's what many women are lacking, or many men are lacking, however you want to word it. Yeah. So are those real men? Yeah, there are real men out there. The problem is that real men are in such high demand. You know, I say it's a bull market for masculinity. Real men are in such high demand that they end up married, and they're always taken. That doesn't mean you can't find one. It's just they're all currently taken. They may not stay with the person they're with because they're sometimes checking her. You know, they're not in a long-term relationship. They're checking her. Question for Noah. I keep ending up dating really unsuitable girls. How do I get out of relationships I know aren't good? I keep wanting to invest in them and hope they change, but they don't. Well, two things. Something you're doing is attracting the wrong kind of women into your life. You have to figure out how to, you know, like a magnet attracts and it repels. So it'll attract the right pole, repel the wrong pole. And you need to figure out how to repel the girls who are not suitable and attract the ones that are. And then you need to know how to filter them. So when it comes to actually breaking up the relationship, you don't need to tell a woman why you broke up with her. But if you want to make this a better world, it's a good idea to do that. Plus, it's a huge test of your balls. Every time you do it, your balls will grow and you will end up being able to be more discerning with girls, because you don't want to have to keep going through that. The thing is, if you're dating the same, I had a client come to me, I've dated 7 women that were just horrible in a row. Like, what's wrong with women? Like, no, it's you are choosing the wrong woman over and over and over again. Question for Noah. What about men that live in the bush, traditionally hunt, build his own house, farm, etc.? Women seem to want modern living only these days. You'd be surprised how many women want to live like that, like you're describing. They don't know you exist. Okay, we call it a SMV, sexual market value, but it's a market. If you have an amazing, if I have the cure to cancer, but I keep it a secret, then no one's going to buy it. No one's going to take it. You have to find out how to come across those type of women. That means maybe you have to come out of the bush. You need to know how to craft a
a story. You know, maybe start a YouTube channel where you don't talk politics on your YouTube channel. You're either politics or you're no politics, because you'll get smashed if you're somewhere in between. No politics. Show your wonderful life hunting and fishing. You know, maybe you don't even have any words in it. Just show the wonderful life that you're doing. You know, video yourself, set up some cameras, some nice shots. You need to craft a world where the woman looks at that and goes, oh, that's impressive. I want to be there. I want to join that man in his life. And she should be excited about it. It doesn't matter if you're living in the city or the bush. A woman has to be excited and impressed by the idea of living in your world. Question: do you believe that opposites attract, or is that just a myth? Opposites in the male-female absolutely attract. The most masculine men end up with the most feminine women. And men who are more close to the middle will end up with women that are more close to the middle. Nature requires balance. And so
men are lacking masculinity, though.
Sorry?
Lots of men lack masculinity.
That's absolutely true. A lot of men lack masculinity, and a lot of women lack femininity as well. But it is very often the case that the most feminine women, you ask any gorgeous woman, you know, ask a woman who's really high on the sexual market value, how much attention she gets from men. There's very rarely, huh?
I would be oblivious to it because
no, they often get less attention than sevens. Nines get less attention from men than sevens. Because men are intimidated by her. Masculine men don't care. If they want her, they'll come and say, you know, they'll come and take her. But most men don't have the balls to approach her. And so a lot of times these women they don't get approached very often.
How do women know if she's a 9 or an 8 or a 7? Like, is that worth knowing? Is that important to know?
It's a good idea to know that, because if you're a man, honestly, if you're a man and you're watching this, probably you're a 5, and you're probably going to marry a 5 just because you marry someone around your level. It's not a good idea for men to marry a woman that's more than 2 levels up from them. Like if you're a 5 and you marry a 7, or you're a 7 and you marry a 9, you're going to have a hard time holding on to her, because she's going to know she could do better. And nah, Dia's a 7.
Am I a 7?
Yeah, I think you're a 7.
Yeah.
Nice. So almost all women are between a 3 and a 7. So there's very, very few horribly, terribly ugly women, like, you know, give you the chills looking at them. And there's very few women that are at the supermodel end. Most women are more or less in the middle. And most women who are a 5 could become a 7 by getting fit, you know, growing their hair long, having a natural color, and doing their makeup nicely. That's usually the difference between like a 5 and a 7. Really gifted bone structure puts you from the 7 to the 9, and that is, you just can't do nothing about your bone structure. It's the way it is, and it's very few men or women end up like that. Yes, absolutely. Beards do make. No, actually, it depends. My wife would never tell me that she liked or didn't like my beard, because she doesn't want to influence my decision in that. But I can tell it's a little scratchy for her when I'm kissing her and stuff. So, you know, and there will be times when I grow it real long, and she's like, I can see she's kind of looking sideways at it a bit. I think the idea of a beard is attractive to women. Not all women actually like the beard. Dia Beltran question. Noah, what if you don't earn much money and are pursuing something artistic that takes time to become a monetary success, if at all? How do you make that work with women? You do understand that artists are almost the most attractive group to women, right? Like, you know, it's fit men and artists are at the top. And if you're a fit artist, and you don't have to be massively muscled, just like, you know, not pudgy. If you're an artist, so what did I say before? Women want emotions, right? They want to make sure they're not starving to death. Hunger is not the feeling they want. So you got to have enough to make sure you're not in poverty. Beyond that, they want the emotional roller coaster. If you're a film producer, your entire living is giving people emotional roller coasters. You know, if you're a painter, You give people emotional roller coasters with your painting. You make them feel things when they look at your painting. If you're a musician, your entire job is to give people emotions. We listen to music because of the emotions that it gives us, because of the feelings we get from it. That's why it's bullshit when men tell you that they don't have any emotion. Oh, I have no emotions. Emotions are unmasculine. Only women have emotions. If you say that as a man, you're either completely unaware of the emotions you have, which means you're probably way out of control, or you just don't know how to manage your emotions. But we love music because it gives us that feeling. So yeah, absolutely. Use your art to attract the women. Absolutely. And then you have to be careful, because women that are attracted to that, you have to filter them just like any other thing you're using to attract women. Is money a form of masculinity in a relationship? There are rich women, doesn't make them necessarily masculine. They could have inherited the money. Jeff Bezos' wife is very feminine. Yeah, well, anyway, she's got lots of money that she got from her husband. Success is masculine. Competitive success is masculine. Men compete. Women earn less on average because they're not as competitive. They don't fight to get to the top. And the money is merely a signal that you are the top provider. You are the guy who competed the best. There are a lot of ways to signal that. Your art could be the thing that signals, I am the best artist in my area, best musician. I earn the most money. I'm the strongest guy at the gym, or whatever it happens to be. These are the things that signal that you are a successful man. And men can flip this around. You could be, you will sometimes see men very successful financially, and they let their body go, and they come to a point where they go, yeah, I got to look after my body too. And they'll get in shape really quick, because they understand how to discipline themselves, and the same discipline they use to make money, they'll now apply to physical things, and they get in shape. And sometimes the reverse too. My gym, when it was open, unfortunately it's closed due to coronavirus. When it was open, the time that I went there, it was like airplane pilots and lawyers and doctors, and I think we had a judge with some special forces guys, and some special police guys, and then a bunch of tugboat captains and stuff like this. It's like all successful people. Those guys make a lot of money, tugboat captains. So it was all a bunch of really successful people who happen to be able to go into the gym at 11 o'clock in the morning. Well, normal people are working.
Yeah.
They're all big and fit. So there's not this dichotomy between the two things. It's generally, if you're good at something, you can be good at anything if you take the discipline that made you good at that and apply it somewhere else. Well, can't provide. That's a great question. Yeah, can't provide. So there's a difference between.
Well, what if the woman is the foundation of the whole relationship in terms of the providing? That's not good either.
No, well then it's no longer a sexual dynamic. It's a mother and a child. She's a single mom of an adult child. Crenshaw, you're absolutely right. If the man can't provide, he has no business going and trying to create a relationship with a woman, a long-term relationship.
Agree.
First take care of your business, and then go and find a woman.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Not a question.
And it's actually a mixture of fat and muscle thick, and it's the ratio. It's the hip ratio to the buttocks ratio, and even to the nicely shaped shoulders. What it says is that the woman is healthy. All the signals that we look for as attractive in a woman. So nice hair, nice skin, nice eyes, attractive smile, healthy teeth, attractive smile. We're measuring mental and physical fitness because we understand that's going to make her a good mom. Not only will she pass on good genes, but a woman who's burnt out is not going to have the energy to mother. I got, like I said before, I got 2 tiny kids. My wife and I are both 41.
Oh my god! Oh my god! That's a huge moth. Sorry, there's a moth.
Just find a giant spider to eat it.
Yeah, here's a spider. No, the house I'm in is like completely being renovated. This is the only good wall in the whole house that I'm in currently.
Well, this is the reason why women need men, is to smash moths. protect them against the vicious killer moths. But no,
Oh my
it's
God, sorry, it's not a moth. It's like a leaf. It looks like a leaf.
it's one of those stick bugs. There or leaf
Yeah.
bugs. Yeah.
But
Cool.
I just don't want it to fly in my face. I'm sorry.
Man, I wish he was here so I could look at it. See,
There's a man when you need one.
that's the difference between men and women. You see, the man wants to say, "I want to see it. I want to see it," and the woman's like, "Get it away from me." You know, so it's
It's not a moth.
but it's complementary. You see, the man wants to see a strange bug, the woman wants it gone, and it works out. If you have a couple, it works out perfectly. But no, I think that the main things, that the subject of this is what are we doing wrong in the sexual marketplace?
That's the subject. Yes.
And I think that the number one thing we're doing wrong that we can change is to recognize that it is a marketplace. Stop thinking about it romantically. It's not all hearts and love and emotions. Especially for men, we need to think about this as a market. We need to think about this as we have to do something that provides value, and women provide another value, and we exchange this value. The value for men is our vigor. This is our masculine energy, and if we are dedicating that to art, if we're dedicating that to music, if we're dedicating that to make money and build businesses, even if we're dedicating it to politics, whatever it is, but having that vigorous energy attracts women. Being powerful, and that doesn't mean, political power, it doesn't mean physical power. It's just being a man, being a strong man is very attractive to women. And for women,
Yes,
to attract men, they have to be able to hold value. So they have to be a great place for the man to invest his future in. Because a man's going to stake a lot on a woman when he decides to make a permanent relationship with her. And if you are having a hard time with that, go to my website, read my posts, contact me. I help people directly, one-on-one help to work out whatever it is that you're missing. Most of us are missing key information, and we're missing someone to help guide us through that. We can't necessarily rely on our parents. I always ask people, why don't you ask your dad this? And nobody ever goes, yeah, it was a good idea. Hey, well, I don't need to have this call then. It's always, there's a good reason, a good legitimate reason why they can't ask their father the questions that they're asking me.
Yeah, for sure.
Because otherwise they wouldn't need to ask me these questions. I've never met a woman who had a good father who wasn't married by the time she was 25, whose father didn't help her with getting married. Dating apps a waste of time. I've had clients use them successfully, and I have had clients waste a lot of time on them. If you're a man, if you don't have a six-pack and a shirtless photo in your online dating, you won't get any attention from women. And if you do, you're going to only get attention from women that want you to, bang their brains out. That's all the attention you're going to get. They're great for getting laid.
Yeah.
For getting married, nothing beats face-to-face. And
Sure,
nothing beats your friend network. Now, I have some people say, oh, I want to date, but I don't really have any friends. If you're a man or a woman and you can't make same-sex friends, you can't date because you don't know enough about socializing to have that kind of a relationship. First, you go out and make some male friends, then you go out and find a woman, or first you make some female friends, then you go out and find a woman, because you're probably going to find your mate through your friends. I met my wife because I had some Portuguese friends, and they went on vacation in Portugal, and they were like, hey, come with us. I'm like, oh, that sounds like fun. Went with them. It was friends of friends of friends was my wife's friend. So we all ended up meeting at the same get-togethers and parties in Portugal here during the summer. Basically, the summer is one long party here. So we got together at the same place, met each other, and now we're married for almost 20 years, and we got 3 kids.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that's generally how most people meet, is through friends or at work. Nowadays, you don't want to meet a woman at work, because if you make the wrong move, you're going to get fired, and it's going to be a Me Too thing.
For sure.
Let your friends know. Your friends should know you're looking and for what kind of a man. And if you have real friends, they help you find someone. Generally,
Yes.
you'll have single people, one will get married, and then all of them get married within 2 years because they help each other out.
The funny thing is, like, one of my best friends in the world, Diane, she's physically stunning. She's got an amazing body, all of that. She's single too, and we're the same age. The difference is that I can't meet anyone through her because she and I are having the same problem. And all the other people, all the other friends I had are dropping off because I'm in politics.
She's in her mid-30s. She's gorgeous and she's still single.
Yes.
Does she understand that, you know, in a couple of years from now, that's not going to work anymore? Because it doesn't matter how good looking you are. When you hit around 40, guys who want to invest in you go, I don't really have time to have kids with you. And it starts to become difficult. Like, send her my way. I will help her out.
She and I are in the same bucket there. Like, so I'm assuming she knows this very well.
You'd be surprised how many people don't realize that. And I find that the better looking the woman is, the less she recognizes it.
I'm sure she recognizes it. Yeah. She's a smart.
Good. Send her my way. I'll help her turn that in. Because you're saying she doesn't have the same problem you have, but if she's still single, she's having a hard time closing those relationships, you know.
I guess there's a piece missing. I probably shouldn't have mentioned her out loud. I hope she's all right with that. But yeah, like there's probably
nobody knows who's who.
Well, a lot of them. She's come on my channel several times, but not to discuss politics. But yeah, I think that's probably why I brought you on today, because I want to know what I'm doing wrong, or like what women in general are doing wrong, or what the missing ingredient is. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think our other sessions that
I'm dating, is it me? It's probably me. Like,
well, of course, it's always us. We're the only one that's responsible for our own lives. Yeah. You know, Dia, the big thing is your ability to discern what kind of attention men are paying to you, and then your ability to communicate with them need to be improved. You do those two things and a man's going to snap you up, because you are a good woman and you are a good opportunity for a man to create a life with you. You know, you're the kind of woman that a man would want to do that with. You just don't yet know how to pick the right guy and how to communicate with him so as to keep him. And once you figure those two things out, you know, in a year, I don't doubt in a year from now you're engaged.
Well, that's because of you.
Yeah, that's and I take that very seriously. You know, if you stick with the process that you started, in a year from now you'll be engaged. And that's not unusual. I've had quite a few clients that happened to, and many of them were coming from a lot farther behind than you are. They had a lot of things to resolve. It's mostly information. You just need information. There's other clients had a lot of other issues to resolve as well.
So what I'm hearing you say, for most women, or at least for me as a person, is learning how to understand, learning how to how to process the information of how they speak to you and how to respond back, correct?
Yeah, what is it that they want from you? You know, because you can't ask that. You can't go, what do you want from me? You know, guy starts to talk, what do you want? That's very off-putting. You know, but you have to learn how to listen, because men will tell you what they want. You have to learn to listen to what they're saying and interpret it correctly. And you know, there's just a lesson you haven't learned yet, and you will learn that, and it doesn't take too long to learn it. And then you also have to know how to communicate back to them, so that they understand what their needs are, and so that you also don't. They understand what your needs are, and so that you don't emasculate them or turn them off by not treating them like a man. You know, I know some mediocre looking women that are constantly get male attention because they understand how to make a man feel like a man, you know, and they're made, you know, they're like a 4 or 5, but they understand how to make a man feel like a man, and men love them, even if they don't want to marry them because, you know, maybe they're too young or too old, but they love these women. And this is the most important. There's the two things a woman can do to be more attractive: get fit and learn how to make a man feel like a man. So
how do you make a man feel like a man? Do you like say, oh, I feel like Superman in your arms? Like, what the hell do you say?
Treat him like a man. Trust him to behave as a man. Okay. Let him know you trust him to behave as a man. You know, when your woman comes to you and says, oh yeah, I saw that problem, but I feel totally confident that you've got this. Don't worry, I believe in you. You know, that kind of stuff makes a man feel like a man. When a man, this is probably foolishly, admits to you he has some sort of a weakness, because you don't black pill your the woman you're interested in. You, as far as she's concerned, you're the Rock and you're invincible. You need to present yourself that way. If you don't, especially early on in the relationship, she's going to lose interest. But if he does present a weakness, you have to be super careful how you respond to that. You know, and if you respond to it in a way that reinforces the weakness, a lot of guys, they're so used to going to mommy and saying, "Mommy, I've got this boo boo," you know, kiss it, make it all better. Your girlfriend is not your mommy. Don't come to her with your problems. You know, as far as you can come to her and say, "Oh yeah, I had that problem and I got it resolved," but you don't come to her until the problem's resolved.
Shouldn't the guy understand that the girl he's with lacks in certain departments, and so if she does emasculate, or if she does do this or do that, that he should be there. He should understand how to maneuver her brokenness in that respect, and that understand that it was coming from a place of affection or caring, rather than, oh, she embarrassed me in front of my friend.
It's not even brokenness. It's just sometimes that the right attitude, this is going to sound terrible, the right attitude for a mature masculine man to have about women is that they're very mature teenagers. And if you have that attitude and you don't expect too much, now there always are outlier women. I know absolutely brilliant, mature, very dependable women, but they're outliers. You always have to have some consideration that women are going to behave differently. You can't have that same harsh rigidity that we have with other men, where we're hard on each other. You got to be a little more easy on them. The problem is a lot of men don't have a strong enough ego for that. They are so fragile that one little thing from the woman and they break. And you know, if you were raised by a single mom, you were probably repeatedly emasculated by her. Women, when they raise sons, they don't know how to encourage their masculine figure. They don't know how to feed that fire. And they end up often treating them basically like girls. They treat them like daughters. And they don't want to see their toxic masculinity. Because generally, think about it, the kind of women who can't attract a man but can manage to get pregnant by one are probably not particularly appreciative of masculinity as a whole. That's why men don't stick around. Yeah, they're hot enough to get laid, but they're not hot enough up here. They're not stable enough, not feminine enough to keep. Yeah. And I've had guys tell me this. Oh, I'm dating this girl. She's like a 9. She's smoking hot. She's a single mom, but she's insane, you know? And I'm like, yeah, you're not going to have a relationship with her. That's not going to go anywhere, you know, and maybe you're having fun, but you're kind of wasting your time and hers. So generally they're facing that. And boys who are raised in that situation, they don't know how to, you know, if you see your dad, your mom gets a little hysterical and you see your dad go, yeah, it's okay, and calm her down, and, you know, pat her on the head and calm her down, then you immediately think, oh, that's how I should deal with it. You know, I've already taught my son how to deal with girls. He's 6. When he was 3, there was this girl maybe a year older than him, and he wanted to spend time with her, and she was running away all the time. And I'm like, stop running, ignore her, pay attention to your toys, and watch, she's going to come to you. As soon as he does that, because this is nothing about sexual dynamics. This is just the different ways that males and females tend to interact. And as soon as he ignores her, she wants the attention. She comes over, and now the relationship is on his terms, and he internalized that so well. We come out of his kickboxing class, and all the girls say goodbye to him, give him a hug, and completely ignore all the other boys in the class. And he's the youngest boy in the class. And the girls range from 6 to about 12. And it's because he understands how to interact with them in such a way that they like him, that they enjoy his attention. And they're children. This is nothing about dating and relationships. They just understand. He understands how to interact with them properly. Whereas
Probably do a couple of lessons coaching.
He has no, he doesn't treat them like, he doesn't treat them like they're really important. He just treats them like, they're girls and fine, no big deal. And they like that. They don't, a lot of the other guys, they'll get weird around the girls. What challenges do you have as a YouTuber in trying to find a traditional relationship? This is a great question. It's not a traditional role. Does that complicate things? I'll be frank. I always tell my male clients who are politically active, don't go after women in the movement. Don't date women in the movement. But I tell the women that too. Date men outside the movement.
Well, Candace Owens and George Farmer.
It will work occasionally. There's been a few cases, but the problem, well, and how long did the relation? We can only judge a relationship once you've had kids. Then we can start to make real judgments about relationships. But the problem is that in general, we're almost on the extreme of thought. So if you're a woman and you're involved in politics, you're an outlier. You take a look at that bell curve. You're probably far on the right for IQ. You are less agreeable. It's natural. Now, I find you pretty agreeable for a girl involved in politics, but you'll tend to be less agreeable. Sorry?
I try to be fair and impartial as much as I can with my politics. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to be a little bit disagreeable to even have political opinions.
Of course, I hate abortion. Yeah.
And so what happens is, and then you have there's a lot of broken people who end up involved in politics.
Yeah.
Does that happen anywhere offline? Yes, it does.
He's mocking the right.
If you're not being invited to the secret take over the world parties, you really need to get hooked up with the right people. You'll be invited to the secret parties. Most of the underground layers are located in places where it's difficult to find them, and so you need to have a proper invitation. The invitation will arrive by carrier pigeon. It's written on black paper in gold ink and signed with the blood of a virgin. So you'll get your invitation if you ask for it. You have to tweet several times, "Can I be invited to the next gathering?"
I already know what I need, Noah. I need a man who is in his 40s, CEO of his own company or something, and not in the movement, but understands my politics and my faith. Yeah, that's sort of what I figured out.
And you're right. He needs to understand it. He doesn't need to completely agree with it, but he needs to respect it. He more than understand it. He needs to respect it. There are men there are Christian men that don't really respect Christianity. They're there because it's their parents got them there. There's some reason that they're there besides that. And it is it's a matter of respect. You need a man that will respect that you need that. That is part of what you need. And he's going to encourage that. But and I'd even say more than that. You need a masculine man that has a sufficiently solid ego that he can help train you on all the things that you missed.
Yeah, like accidentally emasculating someone or just not understanding general social.
You will be a wonderful, top quality wife and wonderful mother if you get a man that understands how to train you. And that is, I don't mean that in an insulting way.
It sounds bad. Islam is right about women, but it does sound bad.
Yeah, I know feminists. You can tell something's right if feminists hate it. They hate when I say that, but that's normally what happens. I mean, to some degree, women are trained at first their mother, then they're trained by their father, and then they're trained by their husband, and then they'll end up women aren't really mature until they've had a couple of kids. They're not fully mature.
I believe that. Yeah, I think I'm lacking maturity in certain things. I can admit that.
Yeah, the same way that men aren't fully mature until till they've gotten in a fight a few times, till they've started a business, or been part of some sort of a startup, even if they weren't the one started it, and had a really hard job and done certain. We mature through creation mostly. Women mature through the having and raising of children.
Yes.
Question is, going to church a good place to find a wife? What's it like for both men and women? Yes. If you want to go to church is probably the best place. And I say this as a person who doesn't go to church. So church is probably the best place to find a woman, but you got to find the most traditional church possible. I have a client, she says, I walked into a church and it was all a bunch of old people and all looked very conservative. And then we sit down and a woman gets up and starts talking from the platform. He says, me and my friends that went to check out the church, we all got up and walked out. And he says, they probably thought we were bored, but actually we were like, we as soon as we saw a female minister, we got out. The more patriarchal, the more structured your church is, it's going to attract the kind of women that you would want to date. You don't want to, there's a lot of straight up feminist churches. There's a lot of churches that are essentially communist. They teach a communist mindset. There's a lot of churches where judgmentalism is inappropriate, yet the Bible is full of, stone them for that, stone them for this. You're not getting into the heavens, not you either. The Bible has, the gate to heaven is a narrow gate, and it's exclusive. There's a door there. Not everybody gets in. So there is obviously, being judgmental is part of being a Christian, but you have to be judgmental for the right thing.
It has to be righteous judgment. It has to be righteous and accurate. Like if you tell someone, please don't kill your baby at 9 months in the womb, that's a good reason to be judgmental.
Yeah. And what it is it's setting standards and boundaries.
Yes.
A huge part of the Old Testament, there's this huge section about boundaries and how important they are. Don't move the boundary. You get hung or stoned for moving your neighbor's boundary lines. That was a really big problem because you're stealing from him and all the generations after him. So, borders, boundaries, and that also played into personal borders and personal boundaries being important to people. If you're in a Christian group that is that loves everybody and accepts everybody. Christ loved everybody, but he also, I love everybody, but I love everybody, but you're not getting into heaven.
Yes, exactly.
Why? Because there has to be requirements. It's the loving thing to do is to have boundaries. People with no boundaries are not loving.
No, I agree. But
if you don't love what's good, you can't love what's good.
In regards to the question that you asked, Port from Co-op, and I know he's not asking me, he's asking you, I just want to add in a caveat. Most people at churches are coupled up and they're married. Like, I haven't seen any single men at the churches that I've gone to. I'm living currently in New South Wales, but in Victoria, where I'm from, the church I go to is a fabulous church, but there's no I know I want a Christian. I know that's priority for me. But there's no one there. So I think it depends on the church, or it depends on the families, or maybe I don't know. But I'm not friends with any of them. I attend, and I leave. So maybe that's the problem.
Active young women. That's what she's saying. There's lots of women at your church, but there's like 2 or 3 women for every man in most churches. So it's a great place for men to go.
For sure.
Women, and I'm not saying they should stop going, because it often gives them the stability they need to look for a man.
I go for the gospel.
Yeah, it gives them some community as well, besides the religious aspect. Okay, because you can read the Bible from home, you can worship God from home,
Yes.
but the church gives you a certain social stability. You have real life people that actually care about you. That's very important, especially when you're dating. But yes, it's a great place for men to go and test it. A lot of men are really afraid of rejection from women. And now that I'm married, I have I'm not concerned about what women think of me at all. Not that I was particularly concerned before, but I'm not concerned at all. And so I can go to women and say the most absolutely outrageous things to test what the conditions of the group are like. I can say the most, they're not misogynistic. I don't hate women. When do women start losing eggs?
By the way, he knows the answer to this question.
They start menstruating, they start losing eggs, because every time they menstruate, some eggs go away.
Your wife is 41, right? And you guys had recently had twins.
Yeah. As you get closer to 40, you're more likely to have twins, because your body's like, we're running out of time. Release all the eggs at once.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Oh, in this case, though, it's they're paternal twins, so one egg that split, so they're identical. But there's more likely to have twins getting close to 40. I don't know. How do I be less needy as a man? I just want someone to hug me and text me my lunch break.
Are
Yeah,
you
yeah. That's
joking?
a great question. Binary agenda. That's a great question. How do you become less needy as a man?
Or
You
as a
need
woman?
you need things as a man. You need social acceptance. You need friends, and as
Yeah.
much as possible, fill that up with your friends. There are married men that ruin their marriage because they're too needy to their wife. You know, you need to have a bunch of, I said before, make male friends first, then go date. You know, if you're a guy and you've got no friends, spend a year making a bunch of good friends and then go date. And when I say good friends, I mean like guys you're willing to ride with in a gang when, you know, when we're doing Mad Max in a few years or later this summer, who knows. You know, you want a bunch of guys like that would really have your back. And if you've got that, then you start thinking about dating. Because when you're married, there's going to be things that bother you. And ask any married man this: you do not black pill your wife. You don't talk to her about your problems. I had pain in my right knee for a long, long time. My wife didn't know I had it. You know, sometimes she'd be like, "Oh, you're limping. What's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, I got a pain in my knee." And that was about all I said about it. And she didn't know nearly how serious it was because there's nothing she can do to help me. So why do I dump that burden on her? I have to be the rock in the relationship. I'm the guy who gets the burdens dumped on me, not the other way around. You know, there are some benefits to being the man. You have you know, you have some authority in the relationship, but you also have to be the one that leads. And part of being the leader is not burdening other members of the group with your problems. So if you're a man, you need other men to go and talk to about your problems. If you're having problems with your wife, you want to go talk to some men who've been married longer than you, who can help. So if you're single, get all that stuff straightened around now. You know what women find attractive? Men who are part of successful male groups. Why do you think that women love band members? They even love the bass guitarist. Why do you think that women love men in uniforms? Because you're part of a group. They want to know that you're part of a good group that accepted you, because that means you've already been vetted. They can look at the group and go, "What's that group about? Is that a drinking, fighting fraternity?" That means you're going to be like that. Is this a group of, you know, militant Christian men who are, you know, very masculine and they're out helping each other and building each other up and, you know, starting their own businesses or whatever it happens to be that they're doing? Well, then you're probably going to be like the other members of that group if that's what the group's about. So she can pre-vet you by vetting the group, which is a lot easier than vetting you as an individual, because you could be lying. The whole group can't be lying very easily. It's easy to discover. So women like in a male group. You won't be needy if you have your needs met by your fellow men, you know, and that includes some needs for physical affection. You got to, you know, give your buddies a hug, pat on the back, handshake. You know,
Solid information.
Men have been told by bossy women that any display of affection to another man is gay. Why do they tell us that? Because they know that we're like very manipulatable and putty in their hands when we're desperate for the touch of another human being. You know, I talk to men and I'm like, "When's the last time you touched another human being?" And they're like, "It's been months." Like, go shake somebody's hand, like something, get some touching. You know, have a bunch of guys that you check in with at least once a week. You know, and not to get drunk, not to play video games. Not that there's anything wrong with playing video games, but not to play video games, but to like get together and see how you're doing. You know, "Hey man, how's it doing? How's it going? You know, oh yeah, what are you trying to accomplish in your life? Oh, you're trying to accomplish this. How's that going? How can we help you?" You know, this type of a group, the group that supports each other. And if you don't have a group like that, form one. And if you're not ready to lead one, form it anyway and look for a leader. You know, find a leader to put in the group.
That sounds very solid. Like, that's good advice. It's the same with women too, right? Like, they need to have friends, they need to have distractions. Otherwise, if they get too lonely, they might come across as clingy when that's not their intention. They're just probably like, "I want validation," or "I want this and I want that," and then that can be off-putting too. I would assume.
Yeah. Start. If you're a woman, get as much interaction with babies as you can.
With babies, like little children.
Yes, babies, like little children. Yes, yes, babies, small kids.
So, because we've spoken before, you've referred to men as babies.
Babysit kids from your church, whatever you have to do. Get as much interaction with children. For women, that will satisfy a lot of their neediness. You know, because what women are really needy about is kids, and they really need that interaction with children. Okay. Wait, yes, a confident, strong man who isn't easily offended. Yes. Unfortunately, should you allow your woman to have single friends?
What a stupid question.
No, that's a great question.
Really?
It depends
Sorry,
on the.
I'm not picking. He's my friend, so I'm not trying to actually pick on him publicly. It just sounded odd. I think he's referring to my friend Diane, but I mean, I might be wrong. Sorry, go ahead. Answer his good question.
Single women will have mostly single friends. Married women mostly married friends. If you're, you know, my wife doesn't have any friends that have bad marriages. I don't have any friends that have bad marriages.
That's good.
I would associate with people like that. I would never associate with a man who cheated on his wife.
Oh, really?
If you look to my web page, when the question disappears, you can see it's smv4k.com, and from there you can see what I've been producing. I haven't actually updated the blog for a month because, yeah, I'm running on 4 hours of sleep a night. So I got to update it because I produced a lot of content that's on YouTube and on the Patriarch Hour. If you look on there as well with Unrational Rise, you'll see my posts.
Oh yeah, with James Fox Higgins. Well, James Fox Higgins is the one that told me about you, so
yeah, James is a good guy. So yeah, as far as your wife's friends, it's very important who your wife is friends with. If you allow, because women will pay attention to the person who is closest to them at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have seen this happen. I've seen women that they weren't married at the time of this happening. In some cases, they would go and spend the day with workmates, and so you don't have as much control over who you're working with. And these were some gay guys and shrill harpies, feminist harpies. And she would come back all angry at her man. Okay. The man, you know, by the end of the week, she was like, her anger levels were up here. She was totally fed up with him. By the end of the week, everything was fine again. Their relationship was good. And then she goes back to work the next day. And, you know, you don't have as much control over who you work with, but you really don't want to send her off to friends who are going to undermine your marriage. That's the question. Are her friends undermining your marriage? Now, of course.
That's really smart. I never thought of that.
Now, of course, she can't have male friends. That would be ridiculous. And I think everybody understands that because, yeah, I told you before that men are interested in women for one of two reasons: to consume or invest in them. No one's going to invest in a married woman. They just want to consume her. So if you think you have a male friend, if you're married, what you have is a guy who wants to sleep with you and is waiting around till your husband's not around. It's what scientists call the sneaky fuckers strategy. I'm serious. That's the actual scientific name. I hate swearing. That's the actual scientific name of it. It's the strategy where you wait around until like the men of the tribe are gone, and then the low quality men will make their move when there's nobody around. And so you don't want your woman being friends with your wife, your girlfriend being friends with guys, especially not spending time with
unless that guy is married or has a missus or has a kid.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any female friends. I have women that I really like. Their company.
I'll be your friend.
Well, no, I'm your mentor. That's a different relationship, and that's an investment. You know, I invest in you, helping you, and you it's reciprocal. Okay. All healthy relationships are reciprocal. You know, you pay me and I invest in you. But it's a different relationship. It's not exactly friendship, because friendship, I couldn't be as effective at helping you if we were friends, because it's a different dynamic. It's a dynamic of peers instead of a dynamic of someone who is helping someone along.
I understand.
Now, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you this is probably a silly question. I don't mean to offend you, but you don't seem like to get offended anyway. What are your qualifications? Like, where did you go to school and all that kind of stuff? Because you obviously know what you're talking about. Yeah,
I actually, my qualifications is that I was never indoctrinated by the cultural Marxism of a psychology degree. And because my brain still works. Everyone who has a degree or a licensed profession will naturally fight to make that licensed profession the exclusive purveyors of a certain group of knowledge. So, you know, if your country licensed carpenters, you're going to be against the idea of someone building something out of wood that's not a licensed carpenter. Why? Because you're defending your financial interests. It's not because you legitimately believe it's better. And if it is, how would we know that? It just appears you're defending your financial interests.
That's partly true, but I want a surgeon who's gone to university.
You know, you'd be surprised how many people think they've got a surgeon that went to university, and really they have. I don't know if I should get into this here, but there's a big problem with supposedly there's a big problem with people from certain parts of the world. One of the sons goes to school, gets a university degree as a surgeon, and then all 5 of them take that degree and take a copy of his passport and go off into different parts of the Anglosphere to act as surgeons. And only one of them is qualified. He's only qualified at their crappy third world university. And, you know, we're desperate for surgeons, so we accept them. We know we didn't used to have licenses for doctors and surgeons. What we had was an apprenticeship system, and it functioned.
Oh, like Kim Kardashian being a lawyer.
Yeah. We had an apprenticeship system, and you would take some training, very small amount of training, and then you'd work with a doctor, and then you take some more training back and forth. And there is a very big difference between being a surgeon and doing what I'm doing. And the reality is that let's see how much I can say without being kicked off of all media platforms. There is a certain group of people that invented most of the area of psychology, and these group of people are not Westerners, and so they designed it to fit their mindsets, and so it works very well when they're dealing with people from their own culture. Yeah. But those of us in the West, we have a very different culture, and we have a different culture between Northern Europe and Southern Europe, and so we have to address the mindset that those people have. Like I don't give Japanese men advice on dating because I have no idea about the dating market in Japan.
Understood.
Yeah, I know the Anglosphere. I know the Anglosphere. I know Europe. I know how to interact with those kind of people and help them to date. So, see, question. Noah, if you were offered a role in maths as a relationship counselor, would you take that role? What is math?
Married at First Sight. Married at First Sight.
I'm not familiar with what it is.
Married at First Sight is a show where they apparently psychologically analyze, emotionally analyze 2 different individuals. They put them together. The Australian version of the show, actually, I've only started watching it this year. It makes a mockery of the original version, which, well, I haven't seen the original, but the American version is real. Like they actually do go out of their way to match 2 people, and they never meet. But the Australian version of the show, all the couples meet. There's like 20 different pairs, and then they all sleep with each other. So that's not worth doing. But the show, the versions in other countries that take it seriously, it would be pretty good if you could do that. I don't think Matthew Hussey, who is a love coach,
I would enjoy being part of something like that. The only issue is if it's being done purely for entertainment. There's nothing wrong with getting entertainment out of normal life, okay?
But it needs to be for real.
If we sacrifice people's future well-being for entertainment, I'd have a big problem with that. And I think control, but it'd have to be done by some of our guys. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. But if some of our guys want to start a show like that for our people,
the conservatives,
absolutely conservatives, right-leaning people, I would absolutely be up for that. Noah, could you explain on what you said about gay friends and gay culture? How does that affect the hetero world? Yeah.
Hetero.
2 problems. You see, gay men will undermine attractive women because they're competition for men. No, I'm serious.
I know you weren't trying to be funny. That's just real.
And most gay men are extremely jealous of the fact that women can get pregnant and they can't, no matter how much they try.
They want children, yeah.
Yeah, no matter how much they try, they can't have children. They can't have their own kids, at least not. They can't get pregnant, basically.
Milo Yiannopoulos acknowledges this fact.
Yes, and well, you see, if you're in our groups, you don't probably know enough gay people to know that that's what it is. I've had gay clients come to me to help get their minds straightened around about certain things. And so I've had conversations, and also I'm the kind of guy that if you have a conversation for a couple hours with me, I know everything about you. I'm very good at pulling out information from people using Socratic questions. And so I know about these things, you know, because I want to know what's happening in the entire sexual market. And that includes the gay sexual market is adjacent to the straight sexual market. It's like it's a weird version of it, but it's adjacent to it. And there is a lot of jealousy there. And there's a lot of jealousy too it's the same jealousy that feminists have. They behave very much to undermine attractive straight women the same way that feminists will undermine attractive straight women. You know, the feminists will encourage women to gain weight. So if you're already fat, you have two choices if you want to be more competitive in the sexual marketplace: lose weight, but that requires work, or encourage everyone to get fat, and then you kind of blend in with, you know, the crowd, and you don't seem so weird. It's a lot easier to pull other people down than to build yourself up, and that's generally what feminists and gay men are doing to straight women, attractive women, and straight and plus two, from experience and from talking to some gay men are very flexible about their sexuality, and so most of them are actually bisexual, and so there's this terrible dynamic there of a mix of not particularly liking women, being jealous of them, and all of this stuff put together, that they are not healthy friends for attractive women. Let the feminists be their friends. Over there, out of our group, somewhere over there. But you want your wife, your ideal friend for your wife is a mature woman about her age or a little bit older. That's the ideal type of friends for your wife, who's got a happy marriage. Even better if you're friends with her friends' husbands. Okay, because then you have the whole dynamic there, and your kids can start to see. It's really good if your kids can see multiple healthy marriages, so that they don't think, well, mom and dad made it work, but I don't know if I can. But if all mom and dad's friends are happily married people, they grow up assuming happy marriages are the norm. I can do this. Everybody else did it. Look, all of our friends did it. You know, being a man, well, that's normal. Like, all of my dad's friends are men, and they're all masculine, and they're all like my dad, you know, and maybe they're masculine in slightly different ways, but it gives them that deeper education on life that you can't give them all by yourself as an atomized family, cut off from the rest of your community. That's why it's so important that you make friends before you get married, because that will translate into the future, where it's going to help you with your raising your children and with keeping your marriage strong.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll leave it there. I'd love to go for more hours with you. I wanted to just clarify to the audience that today was general, like none of it was like it was, we had spoken about what we were going to talk about today, and it was the subject matter of what women are doing wrong, what men are doing wrong, and why we seem incompatible. So there were no, I didn't actually
that you, no, I don't mean you, Dia, that this person watching here, that you understand that we were speaking specifically about you, and that I hope you're not embarrassed that we mentioned all of your private information. Just kidding. Yeah, no. When I will post something very general, and someone will come back. And say, some total stranger will come back. How could you say that about me? I'm like, I don't even know who you are. You know? It's because it is good when people see personal application from general advice that you've made. It means the person is perceptive. And it means that the advice is true, because people are seeing personal application.
I'm happy to be somewhat of a little guinea pig, and I'm like happy to admit like all of my flaws, because I'm a very flawed person. But I know that I can better myself. And you said yourself that it'd only take me 6 months to a year to be engaged or whatever it was. So like I know I'm happy to be the guinea pig, because I know I'm not perfect. I know I make mistakes, and I know that maybe some of the things that I've gone through, other people out there have gone through. And yeah.
Well, and the what you say is your flaws, they're mostly a lack of information, and from not having that information. So you didn't know to correct certain habits simply because you didn't know. You didn't know that they were bad ideas. It's not, you don't have permanent damage that can't be fixed. You know, it's not like you have 6 kids with 5 different men, and body gets you in the mafia. You've made mostly a lot of good decisions, considering you didn't have a lot of information you needed. You kind of winged it on your own and mostly made good decisions. But
I think I was just too sheltered growing up.
yeah, I'm happy, King of Gemels, that you enjoyed the chat today. You know, Dia's a good foil. You know, I've got some energy there, and she's got some good questions, and this made a great conversation. I think it was good. It's been almost 2 hours.
It has. That's why I was like, we'd better go. I think James
Yeah.
Scott Siggins is going to go live, so I don't want to. Are you on his show tonight too?
No, I'm on Tuesdays.
Oh, so you guys have a specific, yeah. I usually have different speakers come on, but I would love to have you back, because even though we do have some of the same audience, we also have some of a different audience too. Someone's asking, what are these guys' qualifications? You already missed that bit.
Yeah, my qualification is that I have not been indoctrinated in psychology, if you know what I mean. Yes, no, I come from a different background. I was a minister, and I was trained somewhat about relationships as a minister, and success is my qualification. It's a lot of repeated success over the last 2 decades, helping couples, and over the last about 6 years being dedicated to doing it as a job.
Oh.
Yeah, helping couples, helping single people. You can look. I had to take my ratings down because I got brigaded by feminists on Facebook. But you can, yeah, they don't like the advice I'm giving. I mean, that's qualification right there.
Yeah,
I say what works. Now you have to understand, if the people who have been undermining Western civilization for a very long time are the ones that are handing out your degrees, is the advice you're going to, and running the organizations that keep your license, you're not going to be able to give advice that goes counter to what they say is true. You have to give the official story.
Yeah.
I don't give the official story. I talk about what works. What was the question that appeared below?
Oh, it wasn't a question. So my friend was telling me to make sure that when I leave, because I'm in his house, to make sure I feed the dog. He named his dog Trump. How good is that? We'll finish up on this as a ratio. What is the? I mean, I know you can say this, and people will say, "Oh, well, he can say whatever he wants." But what is the ratio of couples that you have helped, or people like me who are single, get engaged, get married? Like, what is your success rate in that regards? Because that's a good
every client who stays with me for the women who stay with me for at least a year got married. It's the ones that drop out early. There are some that dropped out early and still got married, but the ones that drop out early, the reason is that the true advice is often painful, because it's touching on painful parts of our personality.
For sure.
Some people can't handle the pain and they drop out. And I try to be as gentle as I can, but
oh, dude, I've been brutalized in my home, in the movement. You can tell me anything, even if it hurts my feelings, I'll get over it.
So she's saying she likes it rough. No, so no, I will be as gentle as I can while still effective, and I think that's important. You have to adjust that for the individual. There are some people that need to, and I will always start off gentle and accelerate over the first month or two of coaching, till that I get to a point where I know I'm pushing them hard enough. You know, you've got a good foundation. You know, you'd be perfectly fine right now if you found the right man today and got engaged. The issues you have are all lack of information and habit related. They're not. You're not a bad person. You're easy to get along with. And speaking of which, if you are interested in dating Dia, please comment below, and you know, we'll make the lineup. And you know, 50 dates, 50 weekends in a year, 52 weekends in a year. You do 52 dates. Maybe.
But it's too hard now with coronavirus and stuff.
Yeah, that is an issue. I think dating's kind of on hold in a way. And you can talk you can talk online, but nothing beats the chemistry of face-to-face meetings. And I think that's where we should leave it tonight, because we're just about to hit 2 hours. And
yeah, we have. So my friend said that I didn't ask her question. I didn't see it, and now I feel like I've done something wrong. I'm happy for you to go.
If there's a no, there's a question to ask away.
Margot, can you rewrite your question and we'll finish off on your question? I don't know what question you asked, Margot. She's my moderator, or one of my moderators, but I don't know the question she asked. I didn't see it. She said a lot of things.
Questions that gets lost at the bottom.
Yeah, it got lost. Margaret, can you please rewrite it? I'm going up. I can't see your question, Margaret. Just a lot of commentary, which is not bad. I'm not picking on that. Can you rewrite your question? I'm just waiting for that now. But yeah, I have nothing but just if anyone's watching and they want to attribute this to something that from my past, I just want to say I have nothing but respect and love and good memories from those that past. So yeah, just thought I'd say that. Margaret, can you please rewrite your question? I'm gonna maybe there's a 30-second delay. Margot's gone. Oh, she's gone?
That's okay. We can always deal with it next time. Tell her to save her question and ask next time.
I had a few people agree with me on COVID-19. What was the question?
She's probably asking the question.
I don't know what the question is.
Is this all bullshit or not? I think it's beyond the scope of this type of a conversation. Maybe she's asking, and this I can comment on. COVID-19 has made a lot of men think more seriously and women think more seriously about the future.
That's good.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a big K shift. If you don't know what RK selection theory is, go to my website and check it out. I have an explanation there on one of my posts. Yeah, the conservative mindset tends to flourish in difficult times. We've had it too easy for too long, and that tends to breed a rabbity R-selected mindset where you don't have to think further ahead because everything is wonderful. It's summer all year long. Everything is perfect, and we're about to hit the cold winter of economics and potential death through virus. Although I think that's overblown, and that's going to cause people to start thinking more about their future. People are at home; they're not distracted by all the craziness they're normally distracted by. And in the West, we've been trying to avoid thinking for about 30, 40 years, distracting ourselves really badly. And when we sit down and think about it, we're going to go, yeah, we kind of screwed up. I think we need to fix things. We've been threatened. We just got threatened with death. That's what basically has happened. We've been threatened with death. Then we've been told that we are prisoners in our own home. And at some point, we're going to go, screw this. If I die, I die. I'm coming out of the house and nobody's going to stop me. And we're going to see, once people start to stand up to authority in that way, I think a lot of illegitimate authority will melt away. We have no idea how powerful we are. And I think we're going to start to flex our muscles a bit in the next year.
Well, I think it's when men get scared into fatherhood and maturity and responsibility. I think that's not a bad thing.
Yep.
Apparently, Margot, what her question was is something about should we get immunity?
Yes, get sick, get immune. Your immunity will come from a good diet, physical exercise. Oh, communist churches. That is a great.
Okay, jeez.
Vox Day.
10 minutes for her to rewrite that question.
Yeah.
Go for it. And Sam, we'll finish up on this. This is the end. This has to be the end, okay, guys?
Otherwise, it'll be a 3-hour conversation. Vox Day talks about this, and he says he calls them converged churches. It's another way of saying communist churches. What happened years ago is that the communist powers in Russia, the Soviets basically, they recognized that they couldn't defeat the West in open combat. And so they infiltrated every Western institution. They infiltrated the politics. They infiltrated the churches. They infiltrated the businesses even. They infiltrated everything. And the churches are more susceptible to this infiltration because they don't, businesses, if you screw up too badly, you go bankrupt. And infiltrating a bankrupt organization isn't going to help you. But churches are a little more immune to that. Plus, they can always, you can always shift your church to prey on more vulnerable people, and then you bring those people in instead if you screwed it up too badly. Hard to do that with businesses. So a lot of churches ended up getting heavily influenced by ideas such as radical equalitarianism, feminist ideas, homosexual acceptance ideas.
Liberalism just seeps
Yeah,
in slowly.
the idea of an end to judgmentalism, an end to having good judgment, all of this kind of stuff infected the churches. And it is I say it's communist because it is a legitimate invasion, intellectual invasion from these organizations. And so watch out for that if you're going to join a church. You can be as far on the right as you want. You can be as conservative as you want. But, when your lesbian minister tells you that they're going to take down all of the icons so that they can, so that the Muslims that are going to be worshiping at church tomorrow feel more comfortable, you're in a church that's not in the right direction.
My church isn't like that. Not at all.
Good. No, I wouldn't think you'd pick one like that.
No.
But for a lot of people, and resist any move towards that. It's all incremental. The slippery slope is real, people, especially at church. Make sure the men must be men, the women must be women, and the children need to have good instructions. If your church is like that, you're good.
I could bring you on this program to talk about so many other issues, like not just love. I feel like you and I could have an awesome discussion literally about the disaster of Christian churches today, and actually might do that.
That would be a great one. I'd even love to do
sorry for you, because all you do is talk about love. How annoying.
Well, I'm going to let you go. It's been a little over 2 hours. It's been a great interview. Thank you very much for inviting me.
No, thank you for coming on. I really, really enjoyed it. I'll see you on our own session. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You're fabulous. And thanks for, I don't know, I hope you did enjoy it. And yeah.
Oh, I enjoyed it. It was lovely. And anyone who wants this kind of help or wants some direct one-on-one help, go to my website, use the contact form, and it's right after my name in the description here on the broadcast. And contact me. I'll help you out.
Yeah. Do it, guys. He's really, really good. He's really friendly, but a bit brutal, but it's all right. All right, I'll let you go. Thank you so much. I'm just going to end the broadcast now. You just got to leave studio if you need to go. We end broadcast.